Today, we're going to be covering Sideways, and I'm looking at you. Sideways. This is DC's new age of heroes ever since the Metal event. New superheroes have come into being, and this is DC's, what a lot of us are calling DC Spider-Man, honestly. He's just a goofy kid with new powers. You can take it for how you want it to be. Enjoy. It was 7:03 on Monday when Ernie gets ready for school, and that's when she sees someone in the mirror reaching out for her. There's a loud smack, and she shouts, asking, "What the hell are you doing?" And Derek falls backwards, yelling, Wait, it's just me." And Ernie says she knows exactly who it is. Just because he can rift anywhere doesn't mean he should do it in her bathroom. Derek pulls off his mask, telling Arnie, "I'm sorry, seriously, I'm sorry. It's just that I've been up since dawn and I wanted to try out the new costume that you made." Ernie asks, And Derek tells her, "It's great, super great, even beyond super great." She tells him that's great. Next time, text before popping in unannounced. Next time he does that, he dies. She punches Derek in the shoulder, telling him that it's so not cool, and ow, that was like hitting a brick wall. So with these new superpowers, you're as strong as Superman or something? Derek grabs Ernie's dresser and lifts it above his head and says, "Not as strong, but I think I'm strong enough." As the two of them go on, there's a knock at her door, and her twin sister, Emmeline, asks what's going on in there. Derek says that he really doesn't feel like dealing with her sister this early in the morning, so he's stepping out sideways. With that, he begins to open up a rift and he quickly disappears. Emmeline opens up the door and tells Ernie that she really doesn't care what her drama is today, they need to get going. Ernie says that she's pretty sure the Glee Club will survive if she's a minute late, but they might as well get going anyway. Meanwhile, over at Derek's house, his mother Helen asks his father David if he's seen Derek this morning. David, who's watching the news, asks, "Can you believe that they are still talking about the giant thing that happened in the middle of the city last month?" Helen tells him to just shut it off, she doesn't want to hear about it anymore, and where's Derek? He calls out to give him 5 more minutes, 10 tops, maybe. And Helen stops him, telling him that all he gets is 5. 20 minutes later, Derek runs out of the house to his mom's car, and she says any longer and she would have just left him. Puts on his headphones, telling her, And Helen continues on, stating that she knows that he doesn't want to hear this, but when they adopted him, they promised to keep him safe. What happened last month was hard on all of them, and not just for him, but is he even listening through those headphones? Derek leans over to give Helen a kiss, stating, "Yes, I was totally listening, mostly. Now go be good at work." As Derek heads into class, he takes his seat, and he thinks about what his mother was talking about that happened back in Gotham City. He and his mother were heading to Helen's work so that he could apply for an internship at the Dark Star Sciences when the sky suddenly turned purple. A few seconds later, a giant mountain appeared in the middle of the city, which even by Gotham standards was pretty weird. As the mountain pushed through, the ground began to split and he ended up falling through. Except instead of falling deep into the ground, he fell through it, appearing back up on the other side of town. And that's when he noticed that he could open up these rifts. Later, once class is over, Derek waits until the coast is clear, and then he opens up a rift popping out on top of the school. He tells himself, okay, he's starting to get the hang of it after like a week. The nausea, blurry vision, and headaches all seem to be a thing of the past now. But it's showtime! And after getting his costume on, Derek takes out his phone to live stream, and he tells the entire internet, "Hello to the people around the world. Welcome to the premiere of Stepping Out with Sideways. People in the chat, you can give me a location and suddenly I will be there. I'm betting you want me to show you how it's done. First, I make a rift, and off we go." As Derek steps through the rift without looking, he finds himself in the middle of the woods high above a lake, and he falls in. He pulls himself out, telling everyone, "Okay, that definitely wasn't embarrassing. Just so you all know, these rifts can be a little blurry." See, most people would edit that part out, but I want to be transparent with you, my audience. Except the whole secret identity thing. That one I have to keep to myself. But just then, Derek hears someone yelling, "Stop! Accept the crisis ultimatum. Your infractions must cease." Derek looks around, telling them, "Okay, that doesn't sound good. Time for us to move along." Except anywhere he goes, he continues to hear the voice telling him to stop what he's doing, except the inevitable. However, Derek just keeps jumping in and out of rifts, and he ends up popping out high above the city, and he barely has enough time to catch himself. As he grabs the ledge of the building, he watches his phone fall down and crash into the ground. And he sighs, stating, Man, my mom is gonna kill me for that." But then the voice returns, and this time it's coming from an actual person, and that person tells him, "You have been judged a threat to the continued existence of the space-time barrier. You seem unwilling or unable to cease your dangerous and lawless behavior. Your sentence is death. As Tempest Fugonaut, you have given me no other choice than to forcibly stop your actions." Derek takes off his mask, telling him, "You're starting to sound like my mother. But hey, I would love to stay in chat," but he opens up a rift and he begins to climb through, but it only opens up halfway, and Tempest tells him, "I know what you're trying to do. My scepter will render your abilities inert." Derek falls back out of the rift and he says, okay, no rift. Time to move on to plan B. As he lets go, he begins to fall back down towards the ground to get some distance between him and Tempest, hoping that he can open up another rift. But as he does, he ends up launching himself and smacking against the buildings as he falls. With one final rift, Derek opens himself back up into the lake where he started the live stream. A few moments later, Ernie hears a knock at the door. She asks who knocks anymore. Nothing like being home acting out a scene of your favorite slasher movie. She opens up the door and Derek reaches out through a rift asking for help. Ernie grabs him, pulling him through, asking what the hell happened. He crawls into the house stating that he made a new friend that tried to kill him and he also fell off a building. It would have been a great show if it wasn't for breaking his stupid phone. She sighs, telling him, okay, I can deal with this. Passed out superhero best friend. Time to order a carber. As Ernie helps Derek into the hospital, back over at the lake, one of Derek's rifts remains open. A duck begins to swim by it and a black liquid drips onto the duck and it slowly begins to kill it. A short while later at the Gotham City Hospital, Derek screams out in pain and the doctor tells him that he's going to be fine. His shoulder is just dislocated and had to be reset. Now he doesn't know what ridiculous stunts he did to receive that injury, but he should be fine now. They're going to need to also get in touch with his parents. Derek begins to yell, no, not my parents! But a second later, Derek's mom pulls back the curtain telling him, bad news, I'm already here. Derek asks how did she know, and Ernie says, well, she was scared, so she called her. She runs over hugging Derek, stating that she was so worried when she heard that he was in the hospital again. She thought, well, she really doesn't know what she thought. She's just glad that he has friends who actually care to know her number. The doctor asks if this happened before, and Helen says nothing of the sort, but it was over a month ago that he ended up in the hospital. When those horrors came to Gotham, Derek and her were separated. There were so many people helping each other, but for them, there was nobody helping. She would go to all the different hospitals looking to see if Derek showed up there. Even though the hospitals were filled with people, an officer overheard her story. He told her that he doesn't want to give her any false hope, but there was a young man fitting the description of her son, and that he was, just like the guard said, unconscious for 4 days. The doctor says that he more than understands her concern. To be on the safe side, they'd like to run a few more tests. After a few moments, Helen tells Derek that they're going to keep him overnight and move him into a private room. Derek asks if they can talk about this. He probably doesn't need, but Helen tells him that her mind's already been made up. He jumps off the bed stating, see, I'm perfectly fine. And a few seconds later, he begins to struggle even standing up. Ernie catches him before he falls, but then everyone hears a loud crashing sound coming from the outside. The doctor pulls back the curtain and everyone sees a young woman fighting to get her restraints off, shouting that she's been trying for months to get in, now they won't let her leave? One of the nurses then asks what happened, and the doctor says that the patient was shot by an officer but behind the young woman, the officer follows behind with his gun drawn, stating, you have no idea how fast she is. Another officer says that he was there. She moved like lightning. It was a lucky shot that took her down. They'll relax once she's under. As the doctor starts to get ready to knock the young woman out, she breaks free of her cuffs and says, yeah, that's not happening. My speed heals and it kills. The young woman jumps from the stretcher and begins to create whirlwinds, knocking everyone over, shouting, I've been here before asking for help and none of you did anything. One of the doctors gets back up stating that they can help her, and the young woman says, really? My speed kills me, but it can also kill you. The young woman runs by, grabbing the syringe from the doctor and sticking it into his neck, creating another whirlwind that throws everyone to the ground. With everyone stunned, Derek quickly grabs his mask, putting it back on, still dressed in his gown. The young woman looks at him and says, well, that's an interesting outfit. Who are you supposed to be? And he tells her, don't let my costume malfunction fool you. The name's Sideways, and I'm here to stop you. So how about we step outside? The young woman says that if he thinks he can take her on, then that's going to be a big mistake. Why doesn't he just die like everyone else? Derek looks at Helen and Ernie, and just as he realizes that they've only been knocked out, the young woman begins to run and charge straight at him with seemingly super speed. He spins back, opening up a rift, but before the woman can stop, she skips right in and out of the other side. He takes the rift outside, and the young woman asks, what the hell did you just do? Derek begins to walk forward, and he clears his throat. Ahem, I call it rifting. First time can be a little disorienting, but you'll be fine. The young woman then starts to run off, shouting that she just needs to get as far away from here as possible. She's had enough of hospitals and doctors for one day. Without being able to catch up to the woman, Derek begins to open up rifts around the city until he finally spots her. He steps through the rift, telling the woman that they need to stop meeting like this. You're all hunched over and I'm trying to maintain my dignity. She begins to yell, shut up! There's just so much that I've done. Every step brings me closer to death. He reaches out to help her up, and the woman smacks his hand away, stating that there's nothing that he and the doctors can do. She took the name Kill Speed as a joke, but literally, her speed is killing her. A few years ago, she lived in Central City during that terrible electrical storm, and she didn't really pay much attention to it. She already had her own problems, like dealing with leukemia. She couldn't keep up with the cost of medicine, but then during one of those storms, she was struck by lightning. The lightning gave her speed, and with her new speed, she used it to help the needy, which was her. As it turned out, her speed also accelerated her metabolism, which also spread her cancer even faster. When she finally had enough money gathered up, the cancer moved so far that it couldn't be treated. Derek says that there has to be an answer. Once they hear her story, he's sure that the police will treat her fairly. But before he could finish, Killspeed shouts, "Fairly? How does life treat you fairly?" Using her power, she creates a wind tunnel, throwing Derek back, and as a bus passes by, she throws that at him next. He quickly creates a rift to try and send the bus elsewhere, but he ends up bending around the rift as if it was something solid. The bus then explodes, and Killspeed runs through the smoke, starting a circle around Derek, sucking the air out of his lungs. He kneels down to try and think of a plan, remembering what happened to the bus, and he creates a rift across the ground. She hits it with her ankle, and she ends up tripping, throwing herself across the ground. And as Derek walks over to check on her, the police arrive, and Derek tells them, "Thanks for the assistance. My name is..." But before he can finish, one of the officers shouts, "Keep your hands above your head." Derek asks, "Really? Where were you when the woman just threw a bus at me?" Just then, Killspeed lunges, grabbing Derek by the throat, and she tells him that she's not finished with him. But behind him, he opens up another rift. He tells her, "Yeah, I'm out of here," and he falls through, closing it. As he falls into a park laughing, he takes off his mask, stating that he really got away. Not exactly the superhero debut that he was hoping for. Wrecked a hospital, destroyed a bus, but man, he's glad to be free from Killspeed's grip? And as he looks next to him, he sees one of her arms cut off from the elbow after the rift closed. A couple days later, back in the hospital, Helen tells Derek that he really doesn't have to take her out in a wheelchair. He says sorry, but doctor's orders. He was to deliver her to the curbside, insurance reasons. She sighs, stating that they just need to get home. The last 2 days have been beyond embarrassing. She came to the hospital to get him, and now he's taking care of her. As the cab pulls up, everyone piles in, and then Helen's phone begins to ring. She picks it up, stating that this is Helen, and the voice on the other side says that it's Judy from HR. They've been trying to get a hold of her for a few days. They just wanted to let her know that they're going to be reviewing the final candidates for the Dark Star research internship, and was wondering if her son was still applying. Helen says that they know he is, and Judy tells her good. As soon as she gets back in the office, they'll set up a time for him to come in. Management has taken a keen interest in him. And then the woman in the shadows looks at an image of Derek, an image of when he came out of the rift with Killspeed's arm. She says, "Indeed we have." And there you have it, Sideways, a part of DC's new age of heroes. Personally, I'm really enjoying Sideways, Damage, and Terrifics. Those are my 3 favorite ones coming out of this whole new line of superheroes. Personally, his powers are different from Spider-Man, but the attitude, I feel, really does mimic the Spider-Man character, which is fine. I enjoy that goofy, have fun kind of character. What do you guys think down below? Do you think this is like carbon copy Spider-Man? Do you just think it's kind of like an homage to Spider-Man? Do you just think this is DC trying something new and using metal as a jumping off platform? Because that's what I think. I'll see you next time.